Good afternoon, everyone. Leah Dixon here from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. I am popping on in the afternoon. Sorry I wasn't able to make my regular 9 a.m. But I am here with a stamp set called the Perfectly Plaid stamp set. It is actually from our annual catalog, and I'm going to be sharing a fun little card created with just this stamp set and one ink, one re-inker. So it's pretty minimal materials, but I think you'll be really surprised by how fancy of a card we can create with just that. So I'm going to switch you over to my desktop. And so there we go. There's my desktop, and these are most of the supplies that we're going to use. I'll just be pulling in some cardstock, and I'll show you that. And as I'm creating, just keep in mind that all of our ink pads and all of our cardstock is on sale for today and tomorrow still for our seasonal sale. Our dies are also on sale right now, but I won't be using any. Shockingly, I won't be using any on this card. So what I have here is some thick basic white for our card base. This is 11 by 4 1/4, so it's half of a sheet of paper cut lengthwise and then scored at 5 1/2. And that is going to create our card base. And so I do like to use the thick basic white cardstock for my card bases because I find it's just a little bit sturdier and creates a stronger card. Hi, Norma. So if you don't have any of this thick basic white, today, tomorrow are the perfect time to grab it because cardstock is 10% off, which is really, really nice. So now I'm going to put that base to the side for a moment. I have another piece of just regular basic white cardstock cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and that's going to create a nice layer. We're going to emboss that in a minute. I have some garden green, some Tidings of Christmas Designer Series paper, and some crumb cake cardstock as well. And we're actually going to get started with our crumb cake because I want to be able to put this to the side to dry. We are going to be working with our garden green ink to begin with, but then I'm going to be doing a little bit of watercoloring actually, but with a color you'd never imagine. So I've taken the most realistic tree from our Perfectly Plaid stamp set, and I am just inking it up here in my garden green. And actually, you know what? I don't want to get ink on my Stampin' Pierce mat here, so I am just going to grab a scrap piece of paper. Oh, that one's got words on both sides. Let's see if I've got... I try to keep, you know, like at work when somebody photocopies something and they didn't mean to. Try and keep that kind of paper. I snag it all out of our recycling bin at work and save it because I can use the other side for protecting my Stampin' Pierce mat. So now that I've got that, oh no, Norma, you know what? It is probably on my end. We have had the worst internet recently, and those big rainstorms certainly didn't help. We had like all sorts of communication problems around here. So if it's really bad, I'll watch the replay, and if the replay's awful too, then I will refilm it. All right, so I've just stamped that full strength, and then I'm going to stamp it full strength again, just a little bit lower, and then I'm going to stamp it off just a little bit higher. Now, the reason I didn't do my stamp off on the first stamp I did is because it went a bit off the page. Anytime you stamp off the page, when you do your stamp off, it's going to not be quite right. It will be like dark in the spot that didn't get inked. So yeah, all right, so I just did a few more stamp off, and then over here I'm going to come in and do a stamp off, and then I'm going to do just two, oh whoops, I'm going to do 2 stamp offs on my scrap and come in and stamp them here. All right, so I've just created like a really long tree kind of pattern there in my background. And don't worry about the fact that the bottom doesn't look pretty, because we are actually going to be covering that up with a sentiment and a ribbon and all sorts of stuff. So really I was more concerned with just getting that tree line stamped in there. And then here's the reason why I wanted to do this early, is I'm actually going to use Whisper White Stampin' Craft ink. And so this is a white ink, and I am going to use it to splatter snow all over this scene. So the way I do this is I grab one of my clear blocks and I put the tiniest drop of white onto my block. Here, actually, I'll try and move that over so that you can see it with the green background behind it. So with that tiniest bit of white there, you can grab one of your water painters, or I personally, I usually just use a plain like dollar store paintbrush, just because I don't want to gum up my water painters with this white ink. Now I grabbed some water out of a dish, and I don't want to get too much in here, so I wiped a bit of my water off. And then you can just grab a pen or another paintbrush, and you're going to tap your paintbrush on it so that it creates like a little speckled scene here. So the reason you don't want too much water in this is because if it's too watery, it will just hit the paper and dry and become like almost invisible. And I want these white dots to really stay quite visible. So you can tap that on as much or as little as you'd like. And then I'm going to save that because I'll do a little bit more watercoloring later with this and do a few more snow scenes. But you just rinse out your brush and set it aside. Now, I will warn you, I have just made a giant mess. My whole desk is covered in like little white spots. I'm actually just going to, they're off your screen, but I didn't apparently paper enough because it's all over my table. So there we go, just wipe that up. Now, luckily it does just wash away with just a wet cloth, so no worries there. All right, so with that piece done, we're going to set that off to the side to dry because I don't want to smudge it when we're working. And now I can move that out of the way because we are ready to just keep stamping, and the rest of our stamping will be on papers, and we're not going to make any more of a mess. All right, I'm going to bring back my garden green ink pad and my Merry Christmas sentiment from this stamp set. And I'm going to stamp this kind of close to the right-hand side of this 1 inch by 3 inch piece of cardstock. So our sentiment is stamped there. And now I'm going to use my tailored tag punch to snip the end. Now, if you don't have this, hi Meltine. If you don't have this punch, you can always just use a pair of snips and come in here and create the banner. Or if you've got the banner punch, like there's so many different ways to do that. So there we go. So we've created a little banner for our card now. The next thing we need to do is a little bit of embossing. So I've actually got 2 pieces here that I'm going to be embossing. I've got our garden green and our basic white, and I'm going to be using both of the Wintry 3D embossing folders. Now I do need to bring over my big shot, my big embossing folder, Stampin' Emboss machine, because I am using a large piece of paper here, this white one. We're going to emboss it in a way that, well, it's too wide to fit into our mini, even though I'm using an embossing folder that would fit in our mini. So here we go. I have got the snowflake version from the Wintry 3D embossing folders, and I'm going to pop this in just like that, and just over half of it is inside that folder, and we'll run this through. And with that done, I'm going to pop that out, and we're going to turn this paper around and do it again. Now, the patterns aren't going to line up perfectly, and that's okay, because that's actually getting covered by the other papers that are going onto our card. All right. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. My internet is just awful. Okay. So there we go. I've got that one done. And now I'm going to grab my garden green. And oh, where did I put it now? Oh no. Oh, there it is. And for this one, I can actually run it through with my mini, but actually I've got all the stuff here with the big one, so I'll just do it quickly with the big one. And this one is all of the evergreen greenery. So I'm just going to run that through. And voila, we have our little green piece here, all done up. Oh, I forgot to turn off my messaging. Sorry, guys. Hopefully that doesn't happen too much. Oh, hi, Tracy. Hopefully it's not too jumpy for you on your end. I'm having some internet problems. All right, so I'm going to take this piece that we embossed with the snowflakes, and I'm going to glue it down directly to my white card base. I like to have a little bit of texture, but I really don't like embossing the card front directly. I just find that it loses some of its structure when you do that. So I always like, if I'm going to put an embossed front, I like to do it as a separate piece of paper. And you could have done it so it fully covered the card front. I like to leave the little border as well. All right, with that down, I'm going to take this piece of garden green that we have embossed, and I'm going to glue it down kind of on an angle. And you can see, like, I'm making sure, even though I'm on an angle, that these pieces are staying on our card front. So glue that one down directly as well, on quite an angle. There we go. So we got that glued down. And now we're going to bring back in, oh, you can't hear what I'm saying. Oh, so strange. I wonder, just because it's skipping so much. Now I'm going to take this piece, and before we glue this down, I'm actually going to glue it onto our piece of designer series paper so that I've got a little border at the top and the bottom. Now, I'm being lazy and gluing it directly. You could just cut little 1/2-inch strips and glue them, but today I just want to be quick and I don't want anything too fiddly. And 1/2-inch strips being glued down is fiddly in my mind. So we're going to glue that just like that. All right, now I am going to put that upside down and press on this side. That way I don't smudge my white ink in case it's not entirely dried. Now this piece is going to go on like that, but before we do that, we are going to tie a ribbon around it. I am going to use the Whispering White seam binding. And so I'm going to take a piece there so that I can tie a bow, wrap that around, and trim it now. Oh, I'm so glad it got better. I'm not sure why we've had so many internet problems, and then recently we had all those rains, and like even the phone systems and everything around here went down, and it's just been awful. Luckily, we don't have any of the flooding like out in Abbotsford, but I guess there's enough going on that it is affecting things. All right, so I tied that in a full double knot because this seam binding really shrinks up when you tie it in a knot, so you're not left with like a big bump in the center. And then it's nice and secure to grab my 2 ends and do my bunny ear bows. There we go. All right, and you just kind of fiddle with it till you get the bow you like. The right size, the right shape, laying down nicely. All right, And then I'm going to trim up my ends. There we go. Oops, I just dropped a piece of ribbon in my coffee mug. Good thing I was finished drinking it. All right, and I'm going to scooch that down a bit. And so what that's going to do is that's hiding that area where our trees met the bottom. And now I'm going to attach this to my card front using dimensionals to just give it a little pop. Aren't those trees gorgeous melting? And I find it so funny that it's from the same set that like created something so simple with the plaid and everything. And so like the different effect of the realistic tree versus the plaid, and then I have that other one somewhere, like kind of the more Nordic design one. It's just so nice to be able to create such diverse cards all with one stamp set. All right, so again, I'm going to pop this on with dimensionals. So there's one in each corner. There we go. And when I put this one down, I actually want to make sure to put it down straight because I'm going to be attaching a sentiment, and it would drive me crazy to have the sentiment either offset from the trees or not straight on the card. My sentiment is also going to go on here with dimensionals, so you want to make sure that when you're putting your dimensionals on, I'm just going to use 2, but I want to make sure that it doesn't go off the end of this piece. So there we go. And pop that on there, and I want to make sure that my V goes off the edge of my crumb cake, but not over the edge of my garden green. Push that down. And we're almost done. We're just going to add a little bit of bling to this, and I think we're just going to go with some basic rhinestones. And I'm just going to do 2 little ones here, just one there and one there, and just keep it really simple. Almost, you know, it's just the greens, the crumb cake, and the white, and just really kind of a rustic Christmassy look. And so that is our finished card, and I love that it just creates such a different look than, you know, using the bright colors and the different patterns and stuff. So this is such a great versatile stamp set. And you're watching some at work. Oh, awesome, Debbie. So that is our card for today. I hope you guys, oh, did I switch over? No, I didn't. There we go. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you have taken advantage of the seasonal sale, or at least checked it out. It's 10% off cardstock, 15% off individual inks, and 20% off dies. So just such an incredible savings. And then if you've been considering the starter kit at all, that $100 deal to get $165 in product, those sale prices apply to any items you put in your starter kit as well. So wow, if you're buying inks, paper, and dies, you can get quite the deal, picking out $165 worth of sale product and getting it for only $100. So if you're interested in that, you can contact me for more information, and I'd be happy to get you signed up. Remember, the sale ends tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.